Hello again, friends, and welcome to Gamecock Central Radio Baseball Report today with Gamecock great Kip Bouknight. I'm Emerson Phillips. Kip, it's been a couple of weeks since we last met here on Gamecock Central Radio, and the Gamecock baseball team has been struggling of late, having lost 3 consecutive SEC series. In fact, it's 4 straight SEC series, Kip, that the Gamecocks have lost the first game of the weekend, and each of the last 2 weekends they've had to win on Sunday to salvage 1 win in these 3-game weekend series. And you couple that with the beatdown loss to North Carolina on Wednesday night of last week in Charlotte, and the Gamecocks have really struggled here in the last few weeks, Kip. So talk about what's going on with the Gamecock baseball team right now. They had a players-only meeting Saturday night after the loss to Mississippi State. They came back and won 6-1 on Sunday, and then they got a 2-out double from Jonah Bride in the 8th inning to break a 2-2 tie with Davidson on Tuesday night to win that game 3-2. Tyler Johnson is back healthy, so the Gamecocks have won their last 2 ball games, but barely staying above 500 in conference play right now, Kip, at 8-7 in the league.
Well, I think the thing that just pops out to me over the last couple of weeks, Emerson, is and the players just they seem to be too concerned about what's being talked about on the radio, on TV, on social media, podcasts, whatever you want to call it. And I can assure you, I've been there in a player's position where, things aren't going well. And, fans are fickle. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the fans shouldn't have any gripes and they shouldn't have any complaints. But, do you want to be at a program where you can be 500 and the fans not expect much? I don't think so. I certainly don't think Chad Holbrook wants that either. But, it is tough sometimes to hear some of the complaints, especially, these kids are 18 to 22 years old. But bottom line is you can't control that. You can't get too high or too low and let what a fan says or does not say or how they support you or how they bash you affect how you play. And I can assure you, any of these players, if they get a chance to play at the next level, if they're worried about what fans are thinking or even their own coaches, they got a rude awakening for them. They've got to just go out and do their job. And I'm a little disappointed it took as long as it did to have a players-only meeting. I felt like we needed a players-only meeting about 10 days prior to when we did, because that's what they've got to do. They've got to look at themselves in the mirror and not accept mediocrity. Because this is a baseball program that has been built, and it's a great program, and they need to just go back to the basics and play hungry and play like they're expecting to go out and win and have a little bit of chip on their shoulder. And it's huge getting Tyler Johnson back. That can only help South Carolina. So we'll see how things work out.
All right, Johnson pitched the 9th inning Sunday in the win over Mississippi State, and he also pitched the 9th in the Tuesday night win over Davidson. And Johnson picked up the save in that win over Davidson. It was his first save since March the 3rd against Clemson after he missed more than a month due to injury. So certainly the Gamecocks thrilled to get their ace closer, Tyler Johnson, back. And Chad Holbrook says that he should be full speed ahead moving forward. So the Gamecocks are 23-13 overall, 8-7 in the SEC. And Kip really coming into a critical next 3 weekends in conference play. They've got 3 of the top 15 RPI teams in the country starting tonight, Thursday night at Florida. The Gators are 25-12. They're also 8-7 in the league. And, this is an interesting series, Kip, because both the Gamecocks and the Gators were top 5 in the nation preseason. But right now, I don't think either team has met expectations coming into the year. Both are 8-7 in conference play, and this weekend series is going to go a long way toward determining, which of these 2 teams finishes toward the top of the standings in the SEC.
It will. I mean, it really, to me, the season comes down to the next, 3 or 4 weekends. South Carolina can, if they go 500, then they got to finish really, really strong the next, the final 2 weeks of the season and maybe make a push in the SEC tournament. Or if they get hot now, they can really set themselves up to, a good position in the NCAA playoffs. So it's, our regionals, I should say. So it's just, it's a long season, even though it flies by. It's truly a long season, and they've just, they've got themselves certainly not where they want to be, but, as much as it seems like the house has been caving in over the last 3-4 weeks, they're still in position to make a run. And, again, they've got to silence the outside noise, not by firing back, but just going out and playing baseball and just doing it on the field. I mean, that to me is the most important thing. I say that the players, the coaches, administration, whoever it may be. I know Coach Ray Tanner came out and talked about his support for Chad Holbrook, and it's a shame you're having to do that, and this team's still in the top 25. But again, that's the expectations that the South Carolina program has produced, and again, if I'm Chad Holbrook, I would not want it any other way. I would definitely want to have fans and administration and whoever else expect to be a dominant team. But it's a tough league. It's a real tough league, and it's obviously tough mentally as well. And how they can handle some of these mental barriers is going to be really how they end up finishing out the season.
Gamecocks and Gators both 8-7 in the league and tied for second in the SEC East and tied for sixth overall in the SEC. So Gamecock pitching continues to be good. South Carolina's second in the conference in opponents' batting average and strikeouts, and they're third in the league in team ERA. Ole Miss leads the SEC in team ERA. Florida is second. South Carolina third. Gamecocks at the Gators starting Thursday night, 7:30 first pitch. That game will be on ESPNU. Friday night, South Carolina at Florida, 7 o'clock start on the SEC Network. And then a noon first pitch Saturday on ESPN2 for South Carolina and Florida. South Carolina with a 2.77 ERA that leads the conference in SEC play. In conference games, the Gamecock staff has the best ERA in the league. The Gamecocks are third in fielding. They're 13-3 this year when not committing an error, but 10-10 when they do. And, Kip, that's been a problem the last 2 or 3 weekends here. The Gamecocks have committed some errors that have led to some unearned runs, and they've lost some close ball games. Carolina's lost 7 one-run games this year, 4 of those coming in conference play.
Yeah, it's pitching, defense, and timely hitting. And I think there's a couple things that I've seen especially, and I've been on teams where they've kicked it around a little bit behind me, and it's tough as a pitcher, but that's when you really got to dig deep. And, that's when I think senior leadership comes into play, and just the fight and the will to win, and more importantly, just the refusal to lose. And that mentality, you've got to overcome some of those mistakes that are physical mistakes. Errors more times than not are physical, and that's okay, but you got to be able to overcome them. Sometimes as a pitcher, unfortunately, you might have to get 4 or 5 outs in a inning, and it does make it tough. But, one thing I think we talk about all the time is, pitching, timely hitting, and executing and doing the little things, moving a runner over, bunting over, hitting a ground ball to the right side with less than no outs and a runner on second. But I've watched this from a pitching standpoint, even though it's really hard to argue anything about the pitching because you look at the stats and they look really good. But I think team wins is more than just looking at stats. And, right now, I can remember against North Carolina, John Parks in the game, left-handed pitcher. He's got a 88 to 92 mile an hour fastball, arm, and a left-handed hitter's up, and there's a runner on second, nobody out. Then we're throwing a get me over breaking ball, which is a very easy pitch for the guy to be able to just pull the ball to the right side. Now it's a runner on third, 1 out. And those things there, is that a mental mistake? Is that bad communication between, the catcher and the pitcher? What is that? But those are things that have got to be addressed, because that has got to be fastballs away. You want that guy. You have got to make him hit that ball to left field, to shortstop, to third base. You want to do everything you can to keep that guy from not getting over to third with less than 2 outs. And, so those are some little things, too, that I think, again, going back on film, and I'm being picky because, again, you look at the stats look really good. But there's more to stats. The biggest stat, in my opinion, always is a win and a loss. And right now, the Gamecocks have got to focus on, keep doing the things they're doing well, but what does it take to get those team wins? And that's certainly something I'd be looking at.
Let's take a look at the Gamecock baseball notebook real quick here on Gamecock Central Radio. Freshman outfielder Carlos Cortez had a huge weekend last weekend in that series against Mississippi State. 3 home runs for Cortez. He scored 4 runs and knocked in 5, and his batting average has risen to .286 on the year. He's got 4 home runs and 17 RBIs on the season. He's batting .361 in SEC play, and his 4 home runs in conference play are tied for 6th in the league. Sophomore infielder L.T. Tolbert leads the Gamecock ball club with a .325 batting average. He's got 27 runs knocked in on the year. He was 4 for 12 in the Mississippi State series with 3 runs knocked in. And Gamecock sophomore catcher Chris Cullen is batting .300 on the year. That's 3rd on the team. And he's got a team best .406 on base percentage. Alex Destino batting .261 this year with 21 runs scored and 25 runs knocked in. So it's South Carolina and Florida this week. Let me go ahead and give you a look at the scheduled starters for this weekend. Thursday night's game, it'll be Gamecock ace Clark Schmidt, junior right-hander, 4-1 with a 1.31 ERA against Alex Fido, junior righty for the Gators, 5-1 with a 2.84 ERA. Then on Friday, Will Crow, junior righty for the Gamecocks, 3-3 with a 3.49 earned run average against Brady Singer, sophomore right-hander for the Gators, 4-2 with a 1.68 ERA. And Saturday starters, Adam Hill for the Gamecocks. He's a sophomore righty, 2-3, but a very good 2.14 earned run average. And it'll be Jackson Kowar, sophomore righty, 6-0, the record for Kowar with a 3.51 earned run average. The Gators currently ranked between 9th and 16th in all the major polls, and the Gamecocks ranked anywhere from 18th to 24th in the college baseball polls, although South Carolina has dropped out of one poll with their recent skid here. So we're getting down to it here, Kip. Let's take a look at the SEC baseball standings right now. Kentucky leads the East at 10-5. South Carolina and Florida 8-7. Missouri and Vanderbilt 7-8. Tennessee and Georgia 4-11. And some better records in conference play over in the SEC West. Arkansas is 11-4. Auburn and Mississippi State are 10-5. LSU 9-6. Texas A&M 8-7. Ole Miss 7-8, and Alabama 2-13. And one of Bama's 2 conference wins did come in Columbia against the Gamecocks about a month ago. So, Kip, a critical 3-weekend series stretch coming up here for the Gamecocks at Florida this weekend. Next weekend it'll be Kentucky, which is 2 games clear of everybody in the SEC East standings right now, and then a road trip to LSU the following weekend.
Yeah, they are huge. Again, this is, I think, a point in the season where they can, worst case, South Carolina's going to have to, play 500 here over the next 4 weekends. I think for them to be, to at least have enough positive energy, just even in the clubhouse, to make a run late in the year. But this is a very, very tough stretch. I don't care if South Carolina was, 10-5 right now, or 12-3 in the SEC. They're 8-7. And the bottom line of that is it's a tough league. I mean, I can remember my sophomore year, we were 15-15, and we won the Eastern Division, and we didn't even make the regionals because we didn't do enough on the midweek games. I think we were 33-24. So it's a tough league. So I mean, these guys again. I know that they feel like the world has been coming to an end, and the fans especially. They've got to try to alleviate all of that out of their mind, and they've got to just know that no matter if everything's going great or everything's not going great, they need to listen to themselves and not listen to others, and they need to truly, truly just focus on the things that they can control. And that I can assure you is going to be, the best way they can use their energy. And I can assure you this, too. They don't have a better leader than Chad Holbrook being able to go out there and protect their guys. He's always going to protect them. If he feels like he needs to talk, and say something bad about the fans or what they're saying, he's going to say that. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. But these guys, at the end of the day, they're the ones that have got to go out and make plays. The coaches can only do so much. They've got to come together and make plays and do everything they can to, have the right attitude and the right approach on each and every day they play.
Kip, pressure mounting on Chad Holbrook, at least from the fan base, particularly in the wake of the 20-5 loss to North Carolina last week. Couple that with the recent struggles in SEC play. Coach Tanner has come out and, reiterated his support for Coach Holbrook, but the fan base getting a little bit impatient, I think, Kip. Anything to that at all in your mind?
Well, again, it's just the expectations. I mean, again, the bottom line there for me, Emerson, is that, Chad Holbrook has taken over a program in South Carolina that arguably in the last 15 years, there's none better. I mean, it's just, it's truly, truly remarkable what this program has been able to do over the last, decade plus. So, again, there was probably some of the same fans that are complaining now. I mean, they were complaining pretty hard at Coach Tanner the first year they won the national championship halfway through the season. I mean, it's definitely, is there a warrant for some of the complaints? I mean, yes, I certainly think there is. But again, it goes back to expectations. I mean, some of the things that some of the fans I think are complaining about aren't warranted at all. But if I'm Chad Holbrook, I would embrace it only because you want to be great and you want to be really, really good. And I know he wants that, more than anybody can possibly imagine. So they certainly have my full support. And I'm always pulling for him. I always do have an opinion, yes, and I don't agree with everything that Chad Holbrook decides to do, or Jerry Myers decides to call pitches or whatever. But I didn't agree with everything that Ray Tanner did either. And I think that's the thing that keeps me focused is and allows me to continue my support is, at the end of the day, the players have to make plays. And, I can remember specifically times where we'd be in the dugout going, we didn't agree with what Coach Tanner might be doing at the time, but we believed in Coach Tanner. And that's what these players have to do. They may not agree with everything that a coach is doing, but you have to commit to it. And only they can answer that. They've got to commit to it, and they've got to just refuse to lose and have that winning attitude. And that, to me, is it in a nutshell. It comes down to the players, and they've just got to, it's time to go out there and just play baseball.
The Gamecocks lost 7 of 10 until they have bounced back and won the last 2, and I think people are quick to forget that, the Gamecocks hosted a super regional last year and made the Sweet 16 of college baseball. So you're right, expectations are high, and Chad Holbrook, has received some criticism here of late, Kip. So huge weekend with Florida this weekend. Kentucky comes to Columbia for a 3-game Friday, Saturday, Sunday set next weekend. Start times back to the usual 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and then the Gamecocks will head to Baton Rouge to take on a team in LSU that is always good. So critical 3-week stretch here for Gamecock baseball. Kip, we'll talk more about it soon. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Sounds good. Good Gamecock.
All right, that's Kip Bouknight, Gamecock legend, and I'm Emerson Phillips, and this is Gamecock Central Radio. We'll be back to talk more Gamecock baseball here on GCR.